Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We were doing a two-part session, balance and defrost. So we already did an active session, and now here we are for our more gentle, relaxing session. This is the coldest part of winter today as I am recording. I don't know where you are in the world, but here it's chilly. It is, according to Ayurveda, the vata season, which is cold, rigid, dry. So we'll do some movements that are supposed to be hydrating for our bodies, our muscles, our joints, and mobilizing, defrosting, melting, and we might feel a little bit of warmth. This session actually won't be too warming, so we're gonna have to warm from the outside in. I highly encourage you to make some sort of warming beverage to enjoy and sip while we do this. That'll help with the hydration side of things too. You might like to sip, a cup of soup or tea, coffee, whatever your preference is, but sipping warm liquid throughout the day can really help obviously warm and hydrate during this season. We always think about hydrating in the summer, in the heat, or when we're exercising really hard, but you might actually find more restorative practices are the time when you need to be drinking the most. Maybe you don't think about it, or maybe you feel like, what happened? Why am I so thirsty? And it's actually because the body is recovering. We're placing what doesn't feel like it, but a demand or a stress on the body as we lengthen our tissues, and maybe we stretch in different directions that we're not accustomed to stretching in. And that stress on the body requires hydration and nutrition. So I like to go for soup at this time of year. Maybe you do too. It can help balance our electrolytes. We get some vegetables, some salt going on in there. It's a recipe for warmth and hydration. But for now, let's warm and hydrate with our bodies. What are we gonna do? Oh yeah, well, let's go ahead and start on our backs for some mobilizing movements. So we'll get settled in. Whatever position feels comfortable for you. You might like to have the knees bent and knocked in towards one another. If you've been cold and in a fetal position under a ton of blankets, it might actually be a deep stretch to come and lie flat on your back. So please do know if that is you, if you feel like this is uncomfortable or a big challenge, that's actually is pretty normal according to, look at what you've been doing lately, rounding forward, and now we're opening the front of the body. It can feel like a lot. It doesn't look like a lot, but it can feel like a lot. And then we might like to extend one leg or the other. Option to close our eyes if they aren't already. Scanning the body from head to toe, noticing what's going on. If we're not aware of anything in particular, then we can just be sensing the body, sending our mind's eye into the body and thinking to ourselves, noticing. And if anything comes up, we can give it a name. And if we're not quite sure what's going on, maybe we're just thinking again, noticing, sensing, feeling, so that our awareness is open to noticing, even if we're not quite sure what we feel. If our legs are straight, we have the option to point and flex the feet or rotate the feet in, rotate the feet out. If our legs are bent, we have the option to knock the knees in, knock the knees out. So any rhythmic motion, swaying or circling is hydrating for our joints and our bodies, brings blood flow to the area. I would encourage us all to keep an eye on how much we're drinking during this time of year. Often we'll sip a hot coffee over the span of an hour, when what we really need to be doing is actually probably drinking a whole liter of fluid, not a small cup. Not to say that you should be drinking a whole liter of coffee, but, well, maybe some days it feels like that. Okay, when we're ready, we're bringing knees to chest. Again, we can rock or sway side to side. We'll do a flowing waterfall variation. So our waterfall pose is a variation of legs up the wall. Legs are straight-ish towards the ceiling, but let's flow. We can again bring the sense of hydration into our bodies through flowing movement and also through visualization, maybe picturing a waterfall coming down on us, hydrating us. Might feel too much to do both legs at once. We could do one leg at a time. So we'll spend a little while here loosening up. We can point the feet, we can flex the feet. That's often a good sign at this time of year. Are we getting enough hydration? Are we getting enough electrolyte balance in our life? If we go to flex our feet and our calves seize up, or we go to point our toes and our whole foot seizes up, then maybe we need to look into our hydration and electrolyte balance. Take a little look at our nutrition, see what's going on in there. And sometimes it's not even what we're eating, but the fact that our circulation to our feet, right, when our feet are cold, our blood vessels constrict, we might actually just need to put our feet in warm water to help loosen up. And that's actually a great sleep hack. If you can't sleep or you don't feel like you can wind down, believe it or not, putting our feet in warm water can help us sleep at night. Rigidity in the body, when we lie down, the body goes, oh, I feel stiff. I must be stressed. I can't fall asleep. And if we can bring some warmth and fluidity in, often we can fall asleep. All right, maybe we're holding the backs of the thighs. We can circle the ankles. And wiggle the toes, point and flex. Make sure we circle both directions, not just one. Let's hold behind one leg, doesn't matter which. Single knee to chest, we're extending the opposite leg out. And we can point or flex, but let's just not flop the feet. And then our extended leg, we're pressing that down into the mat to get some strength going through the back line of the body. And our bent leg, we can use some strength in our upper body to pull it in. Often digestion is a little finicky, a little slow, dry, or windy at this time of year. So a single knee to chest can help move things along. Let's switch sides. Bring in both legs to chest. Same thing on the other side. Our extended leg presses down strong through the back line of the body. Our shoulders and elbows pull down strong through the back line of the body, again in the upper back now. Maybe we're noticing movement of digestion, maybe not. And let's switch a couple more times each side. Strong press down and back. Deep breath into the belly. Switching as we're ready. And since we're thinking digestion, let's come to a twist here. So let's draw one leg in and then take it across the body. And it might not go that far since we're kind of stiff. We might be planting the foot and just kind of letting the top knee go across. Maybe we're bending both legs. And I usually find that twists are a good stretch for the front of the body. So we could be opening into a T position in the arms, or arms as we call it, akimbo, just wider than the edges of the mat. Letting gravity pull the shoulders down. Using a deep fluid breath to open the front line of the body. And we take it the other way. Coming back through center, single leg to chest. We might be doing a deep range of motion to get into our twist.
or we might be taking it much, much easier by bending both legs, just kind of letting the knees flop over. And as we're ready, coming back through center. Might be some movement we would like to do here. Arms overhead, long stretch, maybe a bridge pose. But we will make our way to a seated position. We can take our time. We'll start from a seated position, like I said, and we'll do a little work to loosen up our hips, and then I'll give us a challenge. We'll see how we do. All right, so once we're seated, windshield wiper legs, so we might need to really lean far back in order to get some movement going in our hips. And I find these days I'm seeing a lot of content online about these deep 90-90 stretches. So both knees are at 90. And I don't know how other people are doing this, because I find like even going one side and then the other, I keep moving forward. So I don't really know what's going on in there. But the more supported way is to sit back on the hands and take it side to side. Even just doing a little butterfly gets us into a similar range of motion. We could even modify that for a chair position. But I think I'll show you with my back to you, because this one is a little bit confusing. We'll do a variation of deer pose. So as the knees drop all the way to the right, we kind of adjust ourselves so that we can sit more upright. And this is our deer pose. For lots of us, we might actually find that that is impossible unless we're sitting on a cushion. And then we let the knees drop over, and maybe they don't even fall all the way down, and we let them drop. This is our deer pose. I'm going to turn and face you. You can stay exactly as you are. So let the knees drop to the right, and then we hang out. And there are a couple different variations of this pose. Some people like to bend the legs much more, the front and the back. That feels a lot more comfortable. We might like it more open. And it looks fancier, but it might not add too much more sensation. We can start to walk forward. So I don't know what's going on for you, what's going on for your hips. For some of my students, there's like zero sensation going on here. And then for some of them, there is a lot of sensation going on here. I'll give us one other option. If this back leg is not happy, we could actually straighten the right leg. So we have that same external rotation and 90-degree bend in the right knee. It changes the feeling of the stretch, but it makes it more accessible, more possible. I've even seen people do it with the left leg bent so that we can get that stretch in the right. And then, yeah, some of us might be coming on down, taking a nap, but the muscles of the hip that help us to stabilize, because it is slippery outside, they're working overtime. And I'm even noticing I don't have a lot of tread on one pair of my boots, so I'm taking shorter steps, and then my hips are getting so tight from that kind of accommodation. So holding a pose like this for a minute a day can be pretty helpful. So it might take some work for you to find a good variation, or maybe you flopped right into it and you've been holding for a while. We're ready for the other side. So we're gonna let the legs up and over to the other side. Hopefully we magically transitioned. This side might be different. We could have the legs more bent or less bent. Remember, we have the option of the right leg now. coming up or coming forward. But in our left leg, we have a working towards 90-degree bend to get a stretch to the outside of the left hip. And if you're thinking, oh, it's like pigeon pose. Yes, it's like pigeon pose. We can sit tall, we can sit on a cushion, we can do all these things to help ourselves get into it. And if we want to fold forward, we can. So I did a lot of chit chat, a lot of time setting us up on the other side. This time, maybe we just hold, we turn our attention inward. Seeing if that hip is feeling tight or if it's starting to open. In honor of deer pose, we could be picturing a deer walking through snow-covered woods. When we're ready, we can come on out. And then we probably want to do a little bit of movement to loosen up those joints. So you might like to windshield wipe again. I find that too much of the same thing. And I would actually rather straighten the legs and internally and externally rotate. We're going to get into our feet. Again, we'll do a seated position. You may like to be sitting on a cushion. Okay. I will show us the less aggressive version and then the more aggressive version. So we want to stretch our feet in a flexed position for this one. So we might be holding our toes and moving them into a flexed position, so pulling the toenails towards the shin. You might need more movement. Again, thinking hydration, front and back, warming, front and back. But actually the yin variation of this pose, where we are cold and still, is a variation of hero's pose. So we sit down and back on our heels with the toes tucked under. And for lots of my participants, this is how they do the position. They're on all fours or tabletop and might need to reach back and manually tuck the toes under. Maybe we can put more weight back onto our heels. Maybe we can sit up tall in hero, or you may know it as thunderbolt. Some of our toes are a little crankier than others. They like to go rogue and untuck. We can try and fix them. But in the winter, and even as we age, maybe you are familiar with fallen arches or plantar fasciitis, this sort of springy, uplifted quality of our feet falls flat. And we can maintain it. It's muscle, right? We can maintain muscle. We know muscle can change its shape, it can change its strength, it can change its mobility. So we can work with the muscles of the feet to get that lift to come back, which is our internal shock absorption, part of the system of our internal shock absorption. So if you are sitting on your bum, we can move the feet into a pointed position. If you're sitting on your heels, we can move the feet into a pointed position. We release this pose, the tops of the feet down. And it might take a while for the feet to release. And then we'll make our way into a belly press or sleeping crocodile. And often I like after the foot stretch to do this, because then we can fully let our feet release, we can take the weight off of them. You might be more comfortable with the foot in a more neutral position instead of letting it fall fully flat, letting the toes tap. And while we're here, it's actually a passive variation of cobra to lie on our bellies. And you know how they make babies have tummy time? Do you know why? Probably more reasons than I'm familiar with, because I don't know much about babies, but the ones that are important that we can apply to our practice as adults is that it helps us to build the strength to support the weight of our heads as we're walking through the world. So what do we do most of our time? We stare at screens, the chin goes forward, our bodies fall forward. And if we come and lie on our bellies like this, my osteopath actually said we should be lying on our bellies to watch TV. Which makes complete sense, right? We're getting a lot of stretch through the front of the body. We're strengthening the back of the body to hold our own heads up. So if anybody wants to get back in the habit of watching TV lying on your stomach like when you were a kid, I sign off on that. And then the other thing that it does, again, it might help us with our digestion, putting some light pressure on the stomach. And this pose is actually recommended for a mood boost, that when we lie on our stomach, the serotonin, or one of our happy, contented chemicals of emotion, is released and then can circulate. We feel it in the brain. We feel more happy and content. So the recommendation is actually to lie like this between, I've seen 1 to 20 minutes a day. Obviously, any of these techniques make it work for you. And we've been here a little while. Let's go ahead and press back, down dog or child's. Child's is another pose that we can use to help with our digestion and press on our bellies. We could take a blanket or a towel or even a bolster across our bellies and lie on it. But for now, we're just allowing our belly to press onto our thighs. And we will very briefly come into a standing position. So we'll take our time getting there. Maybe we'll be a while. We might want to come up halfway and then all the way. We're feeling a little creaky, a little cranky. Defrosting a bit more slowly than we would like. And when we get there, we can shake it out. Maybe we're doing some hip circles, some shoulder circles, loosening it up. Seeing if we're feeling more awake, more alive in our bodies, and we'll do some leg swings here. So whenever we're ready, we'll find our balance. Maybe our feet are feeling very different today than usual. Let's see which foot we balance on more easily. I usually like to start with the more, kind of confident feeling side, and we'll swing our legs front and back. So we're warming up our hip joint. And instead of making a straight line, we might actually want to do a circle and reach back, or a figure eight and reach back, going in some weird and wonky directions. You can swing side to side even. So we're challenging our balance, right? If I can stand on this leg and move this leg in all weird and wonderful directions, well then when I'm on a skating around, I'm less likely to fall. When I'm on my driveway, skating around, slipping, I'm less likely to slip and fall in the driveway. Okay, let's do a structured movement. We'll bring our knee forward and up, pausing and hold for balance. We can place our hands in any arm position that works. Maybe we're tapping down, but we're gonna reach back into Warrior Three. So we could have the toe tapped, but we still have this nice long straight line. We could lift up. We could be flying our arms back. And let's see if we can, falling out of my Warrior Three, reach all the way back into a Warrior One. So nice big strong stretch here. We can reach our arms overhead or even in behind the hands. Hands in behind the head with the elbows open. A little bit of a different angle to our Warrior One. So we're generating a little bit of warmth before we come into our final relaxation. Take a few rounds of breath, feeling strong, stable, noticing the sensation in our feet and ankles. Can we engage the muscles of our feet to hold us here? How are our calves doing? That's our foundation, right? So we can think of that as the same way we have a strong foundation for our homes, our feet and ankles and calves. Those are our foundations for our body. Would you want to go upstairs if the first floor looks a little rickety? Probably not. See how our shoulders are feeling. Can we wing the arms back? We can straighten our front leg, hinging forward, flying forward to get a stretch through the back of the front leg. And a variation of pyramid. We won't go too deep because we haven't warmed up too much, but hopefully that waterfall that we started with got some length through the back of the leg. Coming back to our split stance in Warrior One. Step the feet together any way we can. We'll come on to the other side. We've got our leg swings, don't we? Okay, here we go. Swinging front and back. Again, maybe we're moving in weird and wonderful directions. Are we doing a figure eight? Being aware of if we're hiking the hip as we're moving or if we're keeping our hips plain as we're moving the legs. Both are good, they're fine. It's just an exercise in awareness to be aware of our samskaras or our habit patterns. This side might feel more or less inclined to be weird or wonky, or more or less inclined to want to move in all sorts of directions. Again, it's just something to notice. You might be more mobile on one side than the other for some reason. Might have more balance and stability on one side than the other for some reason. Noticing how our feet are feeling. And as I'm asking myself if I did so, we did switch sides, right? Make sure that you're not doing the same side twice. I hope not. And there's no one perfect way to move, right? We're exploring, we're going off the beaten path, but we are going to land in a more structured position. Let's bring the leg up into a balance pose with the knee raised. Sometimes it's called Liberty pose. Tapping or lifted, Warrior Three. Maybe we're opening into our airplane arms, strong through the back line of the body. Nice straight line, right? We're not getting a lot of benefit if we're standing here practicing a slouch. We want to practice being straight as an arrow. And let's see how we do, making our way all the way back into Warrior One. Strong stance. Plugging that back foot down. We might even want to turn and take a look to see if the back foot is flat. Sometimes it can peel up off the mat or be in a strange direction. If we like, we can interlace our hands in behind our head. Holding for strength. Noticing how our legs are feeling. We can sweep arms in behind, back to our airplane arms. Maybe we're ready to interlace at this point as we hinge forward into a variation of pyramid. Maybe we're picturing the hot pyramids, that warm desert air warming us up. We'll use our core strength to come all the way back up to the top. We'll step our feet together and we'll make our way into a kneeling lunge. So if kneeling lunge is not for you, meaning putting weight on our knees, you could stay up here and again do another split stance or a standing lunge. If we're okay kneeling, let's make our way down to the mat. Coming into forward fold, maybe giving the head a little shake. And we'll come into a kneeling lunge. We'll step our right foot back, dropping our right knee down. into a solid position here. Let's lift the right arm and we're gonna lengthen the right side. So we do a C bend in the spine, coming into lateral flexion. So instead of being totally straight up, I'm lengthening the right side, leaning a little to the left. Coming back through center. Okay, I'm gonna challenge our balance. We'll do open book lunges. These ones are tough. If they're really tough for you and your balance, we can actually come out of this and sit down, or if you're still standing, just stand normally. We're gonna move the upper body, but the lower body's gonna stay still. So if you just wanna step the feet together or sit down, you can. It's tricky with our kneeling lunge. So our hands together, and we're gonna open the pages of a book towards the back, and then again towards the front. The bigger the arm movement, the bigger the twist, the trickier it makes it. The more you move your head, the trickier it makes it. So this is a balance challenge because we are moving the head. If you do a small movement of the arms and keep the eyes forward, makes it easier in sense of dizziness and balance. So that might be the right variation for you. Maybe we're just doing a little twist, almost more like we're running. We could do that too. So we're twisting the torso, but we're not moving the eyes. If we want a real challenge, up, around, and over. Up, around, and over. And we need to switch sides. So the next time we're at the front, we'll switch. If you're standing, you can just switch to the other side. If we're kneeling, we can step into forward fold, switch our leg to the other side, coming back into our kneeling lunge. And we have our lateral flexion first. So we have a moment to pause before we just start flipping and spinning all over the place. Right foot is in front, so our left arm is up and over. Lateral flexion. Lengthening the left side of the rib cage, maybe feeling that we are stretching our left underarm. I know I say it all the time, but it can be helpful to have extra reminders. We could be just standing with the feet together. We could be just kneeling or sitting, coming into our lateral flexion. Could be in our standing lunge, right? It doesn't matter what we're doing with the legs. We can still get into this position with the upper body. I know kneeling lunges aren't for everyone, but there is value in them. So if we can do them, might as well keep doing them. We're ready for our open book. Here we go. Back to neutral. Hands together, we twist one way, we twist the other, and our lower body is strong and stable. We could do it a smaller range of motion, again, more like we're running. Eyes can stay forward. We can do a smaller movement with the arms, with or without the eyes staying forward. But let's see what we're working with today. Maybe we're noticing one side is tighter or tougher than the other. So if I'm noticing this side is a lot trickier, I could do a couple extra reps to this side. If we're feeling balanced one side to the other, we can just keep going back and forth. Maybe the arms are tired, maybe the legs are tired. You know what? We are gonna cool it right down after this, aren't we? All right, whenever we're ready, wherever we are, let's make our way into child's pose. And we might again even feel we need to shake the legs off. Maybe our crocodile or our prone position would be a good way to do that. Yogi's choice, we don't have to lie on our bellies again, but it is a pretty accessible way to stretch our quads compared to some of our other quad variations. So if this feels nice, we could come here. Then whenever we're ready and no rush to get there, we'll come into a seated position. And we'll be here for a little while, so we might want to sit on a cushion. You notice I just got my cushion, so there's no shame in elevating our hips for better alignment. And often people will make it seem like a crutch, like, oh, if you need to, if you're too tight. But if you look at a person's alignment, you can tell that they're sort of struggling against gravity, or that bones aren't stacking properly. And I notice as soon as I sit on a cushion, my spine comes into a much more effective alignment that I can't just force it to come into, but I give myself elevation and my alignment is good. So it's not about advanced or being weak or strong. It's just about shapes the body makes. So if we feel this is a good, settled, supported position, then that's the right seated position for you. And that might mean a chair, might mean a cushion, might mean the floor. We're gonna loosen up our shoulders. Okay, let's do flowing cow face arms. So one arm in behind, one arm up and in behind, and then we switch. So the same position where, people can reach their hands and touch in behind, that's what we're working towards. We might never get there. Maybe your arms have never been able to go there. And in that case, they probably will never be able to go there. No shame in that. But working in that direction can help us maintain independence as we age. And again, in this age of rounding forward, spending so much time on our phones, keyboards, eating cereal, I don't know what we do in our life, it seems almost everything is collapsing us in, especially in the winter when it's cold. So anything we can do to open up in the opposite direction has a lot of benefit, can really help reduce pain in the neck, upper back, and shoulders. And this flowing way of doing it brings more warmth into the body. We can squeeze our biceps to help us loosen up. We'll do a different variation of this. Let's hold our elbows overhead. And depending on your range of motion, holding elbows might look like this, or maybe one side is much higher than the other, but we are working towards what they often call our comfort edge. So if we feel no sensation, then that's probably not ideal. But if we feel a little bit of, okay, I'm moving towards discomfort, that's where we want to be. That's where our gains are made. We don't make big gains from being in tons of pain. We make big gains from finding that edge, seeing where it is, maybe a little bit of movement around the edge to come into more comfort, more discomfort, and then finding a place to settle. We can switch which arm is on top. It might feel good to tip to one side or the other, or to turn the head, depending on where our arms are. Sometimes our head is just knocking into our arms. If the arms are behind the head, we can get, again, a little neck exercise, pulling these muscles up the same way as we were pulling away from the floor when we were lying down. We can push that same direction into the arms. Oh, we can release. Might feel nice to loosen up in one direction or another. And we'll make our way into meditation. So I would recommend probably lying down. I'm going to sit up so I can read to you. If you're comfortable seated on your cushion, feel free to stay with me. But we do know we can lie down. If you have blankets, you might want to cozy up. We will do a mood meditation. So the vata season can often drain our mood, can lead us towards feeling flighty, anxious, uneasy, on edge, unrooted, unclear, uncertain. And if we can do a mood meditation, and by mood I mean awareness of, and maybe inching towards positive mood, that can help us to stay more in track in our own well-being. So I'm not promising us that we will feel like, afterwards, but let's acknowledge how we're currently feeling and do some techniques to nudge us into a happier mental place. All right, so either sitting up or lying down. Option 2, close the eyes. all parts of the body that are resting down on the surface beneath you. If we feel parts of our body are pressing heavily into the mat, let's focus our awareness there. With our inhale, feeling light, drawing in energy through our breath. And with our exhale, feeling our bodies pressing down into the mat. Maybe saying to ourselves, I am supported by the earth beneath me. We can start with a place that we're probably familiar with, gratitude. Gratitude gets a lot of hype and attention these days. It is not the be-all, end-all of meditation, but it might be a familiar starting point. So noting in our minds something that we feel grateful for. That might not be the ideal word for you. Maybe something we feel appreciative of, thankful for, happy about, or something that we love. And we can call this next one a glimmer or a golden nugget, diamond in the rough. Thinking about a good moment from today or maybe yesterday, any little thing. You know, the smell of your coffee, a cute dog that you saw. Often it's things that we're not aware of or that we don't notice. You know, I've been having, it's always the little things in life, issues with my sink draining. And all of a sudden today I noticed, oh, it's been draining. I don't know when this happened, but recently my sink has started draining properly. So these little glimmers throughout our day, we can train our minds to notice the good. It's very easy. We are hardwired to notice the bad. It keeps us safe, but it doesn't keep us happy. Right, so this is our longevity and health span. Noticing the bad keeps us alive. Noticing the good makes life worth living. And one of the most powerful things for our well-being, Harvard's done a bunch of research on this, is the power of kindness. It's supposed to be better than gratitude practices and even SSRIs. Taking time throughout your day to notice kindness. So bringing to mind the last time that you can remember someone being kind. Could be two strangers, two people you knew, could be you and somebody else. Someone holding the door for somebody else. Someone going out of their way to do something special. It often comes in the form of online correspondence. Somebody sends you an email, hey, I thought of you. And there's an email link to an article you might have found interesting. You're noting any moment of kindness that you've witnessed recently. And with any of these, if you can't remember anything, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means that we didn't commit it to memory. And now that it's in your mind, it's top of mind, we'll take it into, the rest of the month, week or day with you. You'll probably start to notice these things more. And for this next one, let's make a plan. Since we know now that kindness is so beneficial for our well-being, how can you show somebody within the next 24 hours an act of kindness? Can you send an email to say, hey, thank you, I noticed that you unclogged my drain. Next time you see one of your friends posting something online, commenting a little note of congratulations. Hey, that looks great. I know how important this is to you. Make a little plan for the near future. And if you can't think of anything now, I'm sure it'll come to you soon. And because life is tough, let's have a moment of self-compassion, noticing something in your life that hasn't been going particularly well recently. Often at this time of year, it's New Year's resolutions that have gone figuratively down the drain. Unlike my literal down the drain. So maybe you set a resolution. This is the classic, right? Get up and exercise for an hour every day at 6 a.m. If you weren't the kind of person who could do that on December 31st, you're probably not the kind of person who can do that on January 1st. And let's just acknowledge it could be a New Year's resolution, could be anything else. Acknowledging something that has not been going well for you lately. We're just making note of it. We're honoring that. Might feel nice to tap on the collarbone as we notice that, if you're a fan of emotional freedom technique. Breath in and out. I'm just going to honor that. I'm just acknowledging it hasn't going well. I'm going to validate myself. Here's this thing that's not so hot. And then you might want to add it to what I call my deprioritization list. Instead of making a to-do list with your top priorities at the top, we're going to make a deprioritization list. We cannot possibly do everything well. So if you feel this sort of weight of the shoulds, I should be eating more vegetables, I should be flossing my teeth. And if you search your heart and you know that even despite acting in the best sense of integrity of your own values, some of these things are never going to happen or they're totally unrealistic, let's add them to that mental deprioritization list. I would love to be the type of person who gets more regular haircuts, but it's never going to happen for me. I'm adding that to the list, and now I'm taking that weight off my shoulders. I don't have to worry about it. And there's no limit to how many things you can add to this list. Often with my one-to-one coaching clients, I will buy them a notebook. And in the front of the notebook, they write all their glimmers and moments of kindness. And in the back of the notebook, they write everything they're deprioritizing. And finally, do you know what emotion drives the most blood flow to the brain? I'm so excited to tell you, it's enthusiasm. So let's take a moment here to think of something we are enthusiastically looking forward to in the near-ish future. I would say anything more than 3 months away is probably not enough to sustain that sense of enthusiasm. So I'm not looking forward to summer vacation with great enthusiasm at this point because it's so far off. I am really looking forward to increased hours of daylight because it is so close I can almost touch it. So noting something in your mind you are enthusiastic about in the near future, and then picturing or sensing all the extra blood flow going to our brain with this feeling of enthusiasm. And I will drop these emotion prompts in the comments or in the description if you would like to come back to them later. Feel free to stay here for as long as you like, noticing how we're feeling, breathing deeply, letting the earth support us. Our official time together is up. Thank you so much for joining me. From my light to yours, namaste.